All right, we're back in session. The jurors are absent. Who's your next witness?
Your Honor, it's actually going to be Mike Galloway from CCBI.
Okay. All right, Sheriff, call. Ask jury to come in, please. We're back in session. The jurors are again present. Call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, ready to juggle some things. The state calls Mike Galloway.
All right. Mr. Galloway, be sworn, please.
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Galloway, can you state your name for the court?
Michael Galloway.
And how are you employed?
I am a crime scene investigator with the City County Bureau of Identification.
And what is the City County Bureau of Identification?
We respond to all crime scenes in Wake County when requested by a law enforcement agency. It could be from homicides to car break-ins, where we process these crime scenes for latent fingerprints, other evidence, take photographs, and make sketches.
And were you working with CCBI back in July of 2011?
I was.
And how long have you been with CCBI?
Going on 17 years.
And back in July of 2011, did you become involved in this case, the disappearance and homicide of Laura Ackerson?
I was.
And how did you first become involved in this case?
I was requested to examine a Dodge Durango that was brought to our agency at 330 South Salisbury Street.
Your Honor, come approach the witness.
You may.
Mr. Galloway, I hand you what's already been admitted as State's Exhibit 265 through 275. Do those depict that Durango?
Yes, sir, it does.
And that's in the bay there at the CCBI facilities?
Yes, sir, it is.
And are these, the jury's already seen the pictures with Detective Morris, are these all photographs that you took as the car was searched?
It was.
And I show you specifically State's Exhibit 559 for identification purposes. You recognize that?
Yes, sir, I do.
And was that another photograph that you took as part of the investigation of that Durango?
It was.
Your Honor, ma'am, I move to admit State's Exhibit 559 at this time.
That'll be received.
And Agent, when you first began to examine that Durango, is the first thing you did, you took pictures around it?
That is correct.
And then after you did that, what happened next?
I looked for, processed the vehicle for latent fingerprints, followed by trace tape samples where I can collect hairs and fibers. And then I was looking for different areas within the vehicle for any type of blood-like substance.
And how did you look for blood-like substances?
With a chemical called luminol, followed by an application of, it's called phenolphthalein.
Specifically, luminol. How did you use that substance inside that Durango?
It is sprayed.
And what do you look for after you spray the luminol?
The luminol will react with the iron that is in the blood, and it will fluoresce. Once that area fluoresces, that's when we do a follow-up test.
And is that follow-up test the phenolphthalein that you spoke of?
That's correct.
And how do you apply that substance?
That's a three-step process where we use 3 different chemicals, and then if it is blood, there is an immediate reaction where it turns a purplish color. If there is no immediate reaction, then it will not be blood.
Did anything test positive using a luminol and then the phenolphthalein?
There was some areas within the vehicle that did fluoresce from the luminol, but failed to react with the phenolphthalein.
And what did that tell you about those substances?
With luminol, one of the issues that we have with that, there are several false positives. So following up with the phenolphthalein, it tells me that these areas were not in fact blood.
Before you process the vehicle using those chemicals, did you also attempt to see if there were any fingerprints on the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Aaron Mepridge?
You may.
Agent Galloway, I handed you this marked as State's Exhibit A276. If you could look in there, what is that?
This is what we call a latent envelope. It is containing a series of latent fingerprints.
And are those latent fingerprints labeled 276A through K?
Yes.
And on each one of these fingerprint cards, do you know where it was taken off the vehicle?
There is a description of the area where the fingerprints were taken and also a small diagram.
Your Honor, this time I move into Evidence State's Exhibit A276 containing 276A through K.
No, we received.
When you take these fingerprints off of the vehicle, you mentioned that you draw a diagram of where the fingerprint came from,
That's correct.
or whatever you find there with the fingerprint does.
Yes, sir.
And then, in addition to that, you write on each one of these cards where that fingerprint came from.
Yes, sir.
For instance, looking at State's Exhibit 276K, does it show is written on an exterior rear hatchback?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then you draw a picture of the hatchback and a little square where the fingerprint was taken.
There was a square where the license plate was, and then there's an X where the fingerprint was lifted from.
And you did that all throughout that vehicle.
Yes, sir.
After you process the vehicle with luminol and phenolphthalein, is the vehicle, the substance in the vehicle, I guess the seats and every place is processed, is that kind of wet at that point?
Yes, sir.
After you did that, did anyone search the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and who was it that searched that vehicle?
Detective Zeke Morse.
And were you present when Detective Morse searched that vehicle?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall where Detective Morse started his search?
I do not recall. He was searched the vehicle, methodologist, and if he needed me to take photographs of items, then he would call me in.
Okay. And do you recall how long that took for Detective Morse to search the vehicle?
We started at approximately 12:30 and ended at 4:30, so approximately 4 hours.
As an agent with CCBI, do you frequently or occasionally respond to areas or vehicles or sites that are being investigated by the Raleigh Police Department?
Yes, sir.
And have you worked with Detective Morse before?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And on this day, did he appear to do a thorough search of that vehicle?
I've always found the major crimes unit of Raleigh Police Department to be very thorough.
Your Honor, may I approach witness?
All right.
Specifically with this one picture, State's Exhibit 559, can you describe where that picture is taken?
It is a photograph of the center console. In the center console, there's a little tray. The tray had been removed, and then we take a photograph down into the other area where people keep certain documents.
Your Honor, may I publish State's Exhibit 559?
You may.
And so, are we looking down into the center console of that Dodge Durango?
Yes, sir.
And this picture shows what you saw when you looked down there as Detective Morse was searching it.
Yes, sir.
And above that sits some sort of tray that you put CDs and materials like that in.
That's correct.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. After, as the search was being conducted, was there anything found in the passenger seat of that vehicle? Specifically, did you find a book on tape in that vehicle?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall the name of that book on tape?
Not off the top of my head, no, sir.
After you finished your examination of that Durango, did you then proceed to a storage facility as the next part of your investigation in this case?
That is correct.
Your Honor, can I approach the witness?
You may.
And Agent Galloway, I believe these pictures have previously been admitted. I showed you State's Exhibit A264. Is that the storage locker that you examined as part of this case?
Yes, sir, it was.
And how did you examine that storage locker?
My role in this portion of the investigation was to photograph. If they would find items of interest for their needs, then I would come in and take additional photographs.
And that was the self-storage facility located on Glenwood Avenue?
That is correct.
And did you have information at that point if a hutch or a piece of furniture had been removed from that space?
I've received information that there was a void in the area where an item had been moved.
Other than that, did you process it for luminol or find anything else relevant to the investigation of this case in that storage facility?
No, sir.
At some point, did you clear the scene of that storage facility and move on to another part of this investigation?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, and where was that next part of the investigation that you proceeded?
4021 Bella Park Trail, Unit 322 in Raleigh.
Did you have information that was Grant and Amanda's apartment?
Yes, sir.
And when was it that you proceeded to that Bella Park Trail apartment?
Approximately 7:30 p.m.
Okay, and was this still on July 25th?
Yes, sir.
And when you got to that apartment, what did you do? Previously, that apartment had been searched once before, is that correct?
That's correct.
When this was a missing persons case?
Yes, sir.
And then when you got there on that date, what did you do as part of your investigation?
The first thing I did was take additional photographs so I can document this residence the way I found it. And then I was tasked with searching for any type of blood-like substance.
Okay, and how did you go about searching for the bodily fluids or blood?
I did use luminol and also another chemical that is called Blue Star.
And with respect to the luminol, which rooms did you spray and how did you go about using that substance?
The hall bathroom with the sink and the floor. The east side bedrooms, the bathroom is well in there. The living room floor, there was a mop that was on the balcony that was also tested for the presence of blood with luminol and Blue Star.
And did anything react to the luminol?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and did you then follow up with another test on those areas?
Then I follow up with the phenolphthalein.
Okay, and when you applied the phenolphthalein, what if anything did you see?
There was no immediate reaction.
And I guess at any place in that apartment, did you find a reaction to the phenolphthalein?
No, sir.
Did you investigate the hall bathroom in that apartment?
Yes, sir.
And again, nothing reacted in there?
No, sir. There was, well, not with phenolphthalein. No, sir.
With the luminol, did some things react in there?
Yes, sir.
But then when you applied the phenolphthalein, nothing else reacted?
That's correct.
And that meant to you that substance was blood?
That is correct.
Your Honor, may I approach a witness?
You may.
Agent Galloway, I'll show you states what's been marked for identification purposes. It states it's at A277. Is that the area of the, I guess, living room of that apartment?
Yes, sir.
And I show you states it's at 560 and 561. These are not pictures that you took, is that correct?
That is correct.
As part of your investigation into the bathroom, did you have occasion to remove some of the molding?
Yes, sir.
And I say remove molding, but can you explain to the jury what that means?
The molding that is around the bathroom, around the baseboard, the thought process that with blood being a liquid, it's going to seep to the lowest level, in between, in areas that it is tough to clean, if you will. So I removed the molding so that I can apply my chemicals down where the the floor and meet. The floor and the wall meet.
And these pictures, States Exhibit 560 and 561, do they depict that bathroom after you had removed the molding?
Yes, sir.
So these were taken by somebody else after you had used the luminol and removed the molding?
Yes, sir.
All right, this time I move to enter States Exhibit A277 and States Exhibit 560 and 561.
I'll let the move see.
Here, I'm not going to use these via the projector.
You may.
Agent, I first show you what's been marked and entered into evidence of States Exhibit A277. Is this how you found the living room area of that apartment that Grant and Amanda Hayes shared?
Yes, sir.
And I guess, did you see some, in the middle of this picture, do you see some indentations of squares in the middle of that room?
Yes, sir.
And did you find out that there had been furniture there previously?
Yes, sir, I did.
And additionally, this carpet in the left side of the photograph, that was there when you searched that apartment that day?
Yes, sir.
And it had this pattern of a black carpet with these two lines here?
Yes, sir, it was.
Showing you States Exhibit 561, is this the hall bathroom that you luminol?
Yes, sir.
And I guess on the floor of this bathroom, there appears to be, is that the molding that you were speaking of?
That's the molding that I removed.
And was that between the bathtub and the floor?
Yes, sir.
And where, is that the only place that you removed molding from?
No, sir. Also, on the side of the wall where we cannot see, along that, and there was a little area behind the toilet as well, and I believe below the sink counter.
What was how did this room, this bathroom appear before you luminoled it and applied Blue Star phenolphthalein?
Very clean.
In fact, can you see light reflecting off of the inside of the bathtub, the toilet, and the sink?
Yes, sir.
I'll show you States Exhibit 560. Is this the doorway into that bathroom?
Yes, sir.
And this is before you've applied luminol or Blue Star?
Yes, sir.
And did you notice any discolorations with the carpet near the door?
I found what it appeared to be bleach-like stains.
And additionally, inside of the front door of that apartment, was there also a bleach stain in that
Yes, sir.
area? This bleach stain, it appears similar to the bigger one by the front door?
Yes, sir.
And this bleach stain, is it the areas by the corners of the doorway?
Yes, sir.
How does bleach affect bodily fluid like blood in terms of whether you'd be able to see it react to luminol or phenolphthalein?
The bleach is something that we use to clean up our equipment at the office when there is bodily fluids on it. So it's a disinfectant where it's going to clean and kill any type of enzymes, bacteria, or viruses, or so forth. On certain surfaces, this bleach, where it's so strong, because we use a 10 to 1, 10% bleach to 9% water, but as a whole, the bleach is so strong that it will discolor a lot of surfaces.
For instance, carpet, would it discolor carpet in that way?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that some of these areas of the house reacted to the luminol but didn't react to the phenolphthalein. What types of substances react to the luminol but not the phenolphthalein?
Pretty much any type of iron surface, like even copper pennies, metal. We have found that during tests that I've conducted myself, mayonnaise will react with luminol. Any area that has any type of iron type structure to it, and that's the reason why we had to do a follow-up with the phenolphthalein.
After you had examined that apartment, did you end up responding to an area where there was some blood on a walkway in a nearby apartment complex?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and where was that located?
At 5020 Lakemont Drive in Raleigh.
And did Detective Salmon investigate that with you?
Yes, sir.
And I guess did y'all learn that some individual had cut his hand and then I guess walked back to his apartment and bled all over the place?
Yeah, after my examination, they found the person who had cut themselves.
And it didn't appear to be related in any way to this investigation?
No, sir.
And additionally, did you, there were some couches sold out of this apartment, a couch and a love seat. Were you made aware of that?
Yes, sir.
And did you go to that location where the couch and the love seat had been moved?
Yes, sir.
And I guess those had been purchased by another individual,
Yes, sir.
off Craigslist or something along those lines.
Yes, sir.
And when you got there, did you, I guess, flip the couches over and look through them?
Yes, sir.
And had you been told that there was some red spot on them that the folks that had purchased them were suspicious that it could have been blood?
Yes, sir.
And what did you determine it to be?
It appeared to be like a Kool-Aid type stain, and I did my phenolphthalein test, and there was no reaction.
Additionally, after that part of your investigation, did you respond on July 29th to the Eastway transfer station to take all these pictures of the trash that this jury has seen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when those areas were pulled out of the trash, did you take pictures of what you saw?
Yes, sir.
And detectives drew your attention to what they believed was relevant to the case?
Yes, sir.
Did you end up taking any swabs or of either any vehicle or any part of that apartment, Bella Park Trail?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and where were those taken?
I collected several blood samples, and then once they were submitted to the Raleigh Police Department for storage.
Okay, and where were those blood samples taken from?
From different areas on the steps that lead down to the apartment on the lower level.
And you're talking about the gentleman who cut his hand bleeding?
Yes, sir.
Okay, aside from that,
Oh.
You didn't take any other swabs that were relevant to this case, did you?
No, sir.
Okay. And all the information that you acquired, you passed that on to the Raleigh Police Department?
That's correct.
Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, any questions?
Correct me, Agent Galloway, if I have misunderstood, but you have found nothing.
They say this is the man who exposed.
Searches that tested positive for blood with phenolphthalein.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So,
Okay, thank you, Alice. You may stand down. Okay, next witness.
St. Paul Robert Latour.
Also be sworn, please.
You solemnly swear the testimony you give this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thanks.
You may proceed.
Sergeant Latour, could you state your name for the record?
Robert Latour.
And how are you employed?
I'm a sergeant with the Raleigh Police Department.
Back in July of 2011, what role did you have with the Raleigh Police Department?
I was a homicide detective.
How long were you a homicide detective with the Raleigh Police Department?
4 years.
And how much law enforcement experience do you have with the Raleigh Police Department?
I'm on my 16th year.
Back in July of 2011, did you become involved in the investigation of a missing person, Laura Ackerson?
Yes, sir.
And how was it that you first became involved in, at that point, of a missing persons case?
Detective Gwartney with Kinston Police Department met with my squad on July the 19th, and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon we had a meeting to discuss a missing person case of Miss Ackerson.
And when you sat down with Detective Gwartney and the members of your squad, what type of information was given to you?
I was given the name of the individual as Laura Jean Ackerson, was given her date of birth, was told that she had a business partner by the name of Siobhan Mathis, that they were working on a startup business called Spoons and Forks, that Miss Ackerson had an ex-husband whose name was Grant Hayes, I was given his birth date and an address where Mr. Hayes lived. So I advised that Mr. Hayes was now married to an Amanda Smith Hayes. We were given her driver's license number. That they had a stepdaughter whose name at the time was Shay Lee Elmer, her driver's license number. And I was given a vehicle description and license plate for a vehicle that was driven by Miss Ackerson.
And what was Amanda Smith Hayes' driver's license number? Was it a North Carolina driver's license?
Yes.
And did you learn that Laura Ackerson also drove a white Ford Focus?
2006 model.
And did you also learn about the, I guess, custody dispute that was going on between Grant Hayes and Laura Ackerson?
Yes, sir.
And Detective Gordon told you about his conversation that he had had with Grant Hayes the day prior.
Yes.
At some point, did Siobhan Mathis come over to the Raleigh Police Department to talk with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you talk with Siobhan about her business and what Laura was going through at that point in her life?
Yes, sir.
After you spoke with Siobhan, did you attempt to talk with any other of Laura's friends?
Specifically, I did not at that point.
As that day went on, I guess that's July 19th, is that a Tuesday?
Ooh. I didn't write down exactly what date it is. I know it's July 19th.
Okay.
If July 19th, 2011 is a Tuesday, then it's a Tuesday.
At some point later on that Tuesday, did you actually have to go to the Wake Med to, in regards to something that was unrelated to this case?
Yes, sir.
And then at some point that night or around 11 o'clock, did you become aware that Laura's vehicle had been found?
Yes, sir. Sergeant Provatelli called me while I was at the hospital.
And what did you do after you received that phone call?
He told me to come to the location where the vehicle was found, which was off of Summit Manor Lane.
And that was that Camden Crest apartment complex?
Yes, sir.
And that was north of the Woodfield Glen apartment complex, which is where Amanda and Grant Hayes lived?
Yes, sir. Very close to it.
When you got to Laura's car at this apartment complex, what did you do at that point?
We determined we were going to need the keys to the vehicle. Based on my interview with Siobhan, I knew that she had them. So I contacted her, told her that I needed a key to Laura's vehicle, and I arranged to pick up the keys.
And did a member of the Kinston Police Department get the key and bring it to you and Detective Hall?
Sergeant Jackson of Kinston Police Department.
And did you obtain that key to Laura's car?
At 3 o'clock in the morning on the 20th.
Okay, so that's July 20th is the point that you get the key.
Yes, sir.
When you got back to Raleigh to where Laura's car was located, had CCBI already processed the vehicle?
When I got back, I think they had started working on the exterior of the vehicle.
And then with the help of that key, you were able to get into the inside of that vehicle?
Correct.
And this jury's already seen some pictures, but in the floorboard of the passenger seat, there was a takeout dish.
Yes.
Is that correct? And there was a, I guess, styrofoam cup or drink in the center console of that Ford Focus.
Yes.
At that point, did you talk with some maintenance folks at the apartment complex?
It's a few hours later on in the morning. It was over at the Woodfield Glen Apartments. I did. Mr. Mike Davis and Keith McKinney.
And did you ask him about a silver Durango?
Yes, sir.
And around that time, was a search warrant acquired and executed on that apartment of Amanda and Grant Hayes?
4021 apartment 322 Bella Park Trail.
Now, did you search that apartment as part of your investigation?
I didn't. I basically held the door for about 30 or 40 seconds and then had to go do something else.
In the 30 or 40 seconds that you were standing there, did you notice anything about the apartment?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
As soon as you walked in the door, two of the detectives had gone in. It was Detective Falk and Detective Hall. I held the door open for them. I didn't enter the residence. I was standing in the doorway. I looked down and I saw the carpeted floor that was near the front door had a large spot on the carpet which appeared to have bleach poured or spilled all over it. The color of the carpet was tan and the bleached area was much lighter than the rest of the flooring.
Now, around that time, did you hear anything?
Yes.
And what was that?
Trash truck.
And so when you heard the trash truck, what did you do?
Ran out to him.
And was this the trash truck that was out there on this Wednesday morning? What was it picking up at that time?
Cardboard.
And did you talk to the person who was driving that truck?
I did. He was driving an OCS truck.
And did you find out when the trash dumpster or the trash compactor was emptied?
Yes, sir.
And when did you learn that the trash compactor or trash dumpster had been emptied?
The driver told me the trash compactor was last dumped on July the 15th of 2011, and I was told that it would not be picked up again until July the 29th of 2011.
After you acquired that information, did you go back to the Kinston Police Department?
Detective Gill, Detective Norman, and myself all went to Kinston Police Department.
And what was the purpose of talking with those folks at the Kinston Police Department?
We collected any type of case reports that were related to Miss Ackerson. We also wanted to go to her residence and look through the residence. And Detective Gortney had taken a search warrant for her residence.
And did you acquire basically everything that the Kinston Police Department had on this case at that point?
Yes.
And was that because the Raleigh Police Department was taking over?
Yes.
And did you end up going into Laura's apartment located there in Kinston?
Yes.
And did you notice that the plants appear to be dying?
They were dying.
And did you notice anything about the trash can in the kitchen?
Trash can had fruit in it, and it was covered with fruit flies.
Next, as part of your investigation, did you, I guess while you were in that apartment, did you notice that there was a checkbook that Laura had in there?
Yes, sir, from BB&T.
And did you additionally acquire some other pieces of evidence from inside Laura's apartment?
Yes, sir.
And what were those pieces of evidence?
I collected a hairbrush, and I collected some hair that was loose in the bathroom.
You mentioned that while you were there, you also noticed that there was trash in the garbage can that had fruit flies on it.
Yes, sir.
I guess, why were you, when you heard the trash truck earlier at Grant Amanda's apartment, why were you interested in when that was being dumped?
If there's any evidence that was inside the dumpster that could be pertinent to this investigation.
And jumping back to when you're inside Laura Ackerson's apartment later that day, you mentioned that you collected a hairbrush and some hair.
Yes, sir.
And why? What was the purpose of that?
In case I needed to have some type of DNA sample.
While you're in Kinston, did you also speak with Patsy Hayes, who's the mother of Grant Hayes?
Yes, sir. Detective Gill conducted the interview primarily. I was present for the interview.
The next day, on July 21st, did you attempt to make contact with some of the restaurants that Laura had visited back on July 13th, the day that she went missing?
Yes, sir.
And did you have Laura's phone records to help you in that search?
Yes, sir.
Did you go out to Bill's Grill near Wilson, North Carolina?
I did.
And did you also head to the Sheetz gas station in Wilson?
I did.
And why did you head to the Sheetz gas station?
Based on our interviews, I knew that that was a court-ordered pickup location for them to exchange the two children, the two boys, Grant and General. And I wanted to obtain surveillance video if they had it to see if an exchange actually occurred.
And did you acquire video at that time?
No, sir.
Were they going to try to pull the video for you?
Yes, sir. The video was kept at a corporate location, and they were going to have to pull it and then send it to that store. And then I was going to have to get it at a later date.
That did you request the video for July 15th?
Yes.
And was that a time when Laura and Grant Amanda should exchange those children at that Sheetz gas station?
Correct.
At some point, did you come back to the police station and begin reviewing Laura's diary that was collected from the Kinston Police Department?
I did.
And in that diary, did you notice how Laura had started making a very detailed list of every time she had contact with Grant Amanda Hayes and what the interaction was with her children?
Yes, sir.
Did you also notice that in that diary that Laura appeared upset that Amanda had called her psycho crazy?
Yes, sir.
At that point, did you acquire the video of Laura leaving her Kinston apartment?
We had already acquired it, I believe, when we were in Kinston, but we began reviewing it.
And did you note what she was wearing in that video and circulate it?
Yes, sir.
And what was the description that you gave to the media to describe Laura Ackerson, what she was wearing?
The clothing description that we gave was a brown sleeveless blouse and tan capri pants. She was carrying a black leather bag with white lettering on it, and she had a brown Liz Claiborne purse. And I confirmed with Siobhan about the Liz Claiborne name brand specifically.
And did you transmit that to the local media?
Sergeant Prevatelli did.
And what was the purpose of that?
Just to have folks looking for her, to keep an eye out, see if she'd been seen by anyone.
Did you ever recover as part of your investigation any of that clothing or either of those bags?
No.
At some point, did you talk with Randy Jenkins from Bill's Grill?
Yes, sir.
And initially, had he not recognized who Laura Ackerson was?
Correct.
And then, did you get in contact with him again and you realized that he had actually met with her?
Yes, sir. He called me on the 22nd of July.
And did you send him a picture of Laura Ackerson?
I did.
And did he indicate that that was the person that he met with on the Wednesday, July 13th, around 4 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
Around this time, did Detective Falk meet with Amanda Hayes' daughter, Shay Elmer?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Shay did that?
Added as Elmer, but Shay, the daughter of Amanda Hayes.
And during that conversation, did you and other detectives become aware that Grant and Amanda Hayes had rented a U-Haul and were scheduled to drop that off in Texas?
Correct.
What did you do in response to having that information?
Started contacting U-Haul to see if I could find out if the vehicle or the trailer had been returned and confirm that it had been rented.
And what did you find out after you found out that it had been rented?
The vehicle had been, or the trailer I should say, had been turned in on July the 20th, 2011 in Katy, Texas. I was given a card number that the vehicle was rented with. And I was also given the telephone number to the U-Haul in Katy, Texas with the manager's name of Rhonda Holiday.
And did you speak to Miss Holiday?
I did.
And did you call down there to find out if that U-Haul trailer was still at their facility?
Correct.
And initially, what did she tell you?
She told me it had been rented out that very morning.
But then after some further research, did she call you back?
She called me back only probably 5 or 6 minutes later and said that they had been entered incorrectly in the computer and that the trailer was there and had not been rented out.
And did she agree to secure it so that no one else could take it?
Correct.
And did she say that anything had been washed on that trailer?
The exterior of the trailer was the only thing that had been washed.
So as part of U-Haul would wash the outside of those trailers?
Yes, sir.
And at that point, did you contact anyone in Texas to try to go seize that U-Haul for you?
Sergeant Ben Beal, who worked with the Harris County Sheriff's Office, which is where the U-Haul was located. I contacted him, told him I needed to have officers go by and pick the U-Haul up and secure it at their evidence storage location.
And did he say that he would do that and seize that U-Haul trailer and take it back to the Harris County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir, and I later called him and confirmed that they had done that.
And Harris County is where Houston, Texas is located.
Correct.
At that point, did you also do some records, try to get the U-Haul records from the U-Haul Corporation?
I typed up some subpoenas for U-Haul. I gave them to Detective Salmon, who was going to go get them signed by a judge.
On the evening of July 22nd, which is that Friday, I guess, did you leave North Carolina and head to Texas?
I did.
And who did you go with to head to Texas?
Detective Gill,
What time did you leave Raleigh?
4:30 in the evening.
And what time did you arrive in Texas?
4 o'clock on July the 23rd.
Did you stop or did you drive through the night?
We slept 2 hours in a rest stop. That felt like a rest home. In a rest stop parking lot.
Okay. To drive from Raleigh to Katy, Texas, do you go through western Louisiana?
Yes.
And going through western Louisiana, is there a large portion of the highway that goes over a bridge over water?
Yes, multiple miles.
At some point, you arrived in, I believe you said 4 o'clock on that Saturday, you arrived in Katy, Texas.
Correct. When we pulled in, I contacted Sergeant Beal just to make sure he still had the trailer. And originally I thought we were going to get it immediately, but I told him just hold on to it. I'll get back with you on it. So he told me that was not a problem.
And to be clear, you left Raleigh at around 4:30 p.m. on Friday and arrived in Katy, Texas at around 4 p.m. on Saturday.
Correct.
And you only slept for a couple hours.
2.
So without taking any breaks, if you were able to do that, it would take roughly 22 hours.
Correct. We stopped to get a couple meals on the way.
Okay. So a little bit longer, maybe 24 hours is around that amount of time that it takes to get there.
Yes, sir.
When you got there to Texas, I guess at some point did you go to sleep and wake up the next morning?
Didn't.
And when you woke up the next morning, what did you do?
We went and contacted the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office. We wanted to go and conduct an interview with Karen Berry, who's the sister of the defendant. And Miss Berry lived on Skinner Lane, and Skinner Lane was in Fort Bend County's jurisdiction, so we needed them to go with us.
And did you head to that address of 4336 Skinner Lane where Karen Berry lives?
Correct.
Did you meet with some sheriff's deputies from the Fort Bend Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir. We met them at the dead end of Skinner Lane at a place called Bellin Park, which is basically like a softball field. Told them why we were there and what we wanted from them.
At this point, did you have information from Detective Keith Heckman that that 7651 cell phone number had been pinged by AT&T and had shown up around that area of Texas?
Correct. And in the front yard of Karen Berry.
Did you and those Fort Bend County Sheriff's deputies head to Karen Berry's house at that point?
Yes, sir.
And did they knock on the door?
Yes, sir.
And what happened when they knocked on the door?
Miss Berry answered the door and greeted us.
And then did you all go into Karen Berry's house?
Yes, sir. The living room.
And did you sit there with Detective Gill? And were there two Fort Bend Sheriff deputies there?
There's two deputies, and then Dalton and Shelton, which are Miss Berry's sons, were in the back, and we asked them to come out. And they went outside with one of the deputies.
When you sat down with Karen Berry, how would you describe her demeanor on that Sunday morning?
She was visibly shaken. Her voice trembled when she talked to us. She cried at some points during the conversations that we had. She prayed. She was obviously upset.
You mentioned that she prayed. Before she prayed, did Detective Gill tell Karen Berry why you had come all the way from North Carolina?
We actually started out, Detective Gill said that he wanted to talk to her about a recent visit that Amanda and Grant had. And I recorded the interview. Detective Gill got Miss Berry's biographical information, and then Miss Berry asked me what my name was. I told her my name was Bobby. She said, "It's nice to meet you," and then she said, "I think," like, "It's nice to meet you, I think." And Detective Gill assured her that she was okay.
And did
And
Karen
then-
tell you that at that point, did Karen say to you that she was not okay?
Yeah,
And then, I guess without being prompted, did she say that she loved her little sister?
she said, "Yep, you're correct."
And I guess did y'all follow up with asking, why are you worried about Amanda?
Yeah, Detective Gill asked her, "Why are you worried about her?" And she said that she was just worried because her husband and she, referring to the defendant, she'd been hearing all kinds of stuff. So Miss Berry's saying, "I'm worried because of Grant and Amanda, and I've been hearing all kinds of stuff." She said she really didn't know what was going on. She was just worried, and she'd been having chest pains.
And later, did she go on to tell you that she was the oldest sibling and that she had to take care of her siblings?
Correct.
And at that point, did Detective Gill ask Karen Berry to answer some questions for him?
Yeah, he started saying, "Maybe I can ease your mind a little bit. Maybe you can ask a couple questions." And Karen interrupted him at that point.
And why did Karen interrupt him?
Because she said, "Can I just do something real quick? Can I just say a prayer to God?" Which we said, "Certainly."
And so then did you see her pray?
Yep, I've quoted what she prayed.
And then did she begin to cry?
She cried while she was praying.
And at that point, did Karen Berry tell you about what had happened when Amanda and Grant Hayes had come down to her house?
Yes.
And did she mention that that when Amanda Hayes came to see her that she had a U-Haul trailer?
Yes.
And did it take her some time to remember exactly when Karen Berry arrived at her house?
Yes.
And eventually, did she tell you that she showed up on the Monday morning of the week prior?
Yes.
And I might have messed up that question, but Karen Berry told you that Amanda had showed up at Karen Berry's house on that Monday morning the week prior.
Yeah, I thought that's what you said the first time. That's what I was saying yes to, at least.
Okay. And did you describe what they did on Monday and Tuesday?
She did.
And Karen told you and Detective Gill that that Karen had learned that Amanda was coming down to Karen's house the previous Friday,
Correct.
and that she had called her that Friday,
Correct.
and that Karen had said that she missed her, and that's why she was coming down to see her.
That, and she wanted to bring her a piece of furniture.
At that point on that Sunday morning, did you see that piece of furniture?
I did. I didn't know I was seeing it, but I did see it.
Okay.
It was on the front porch.
Later in the day, you realized it to be on the front porch.
Correct.
And was it still wrapped in gray U-Haul blankets?
Yes.
And did Karen tell you that she was having a lot of difficulty remembering what had happened over the course of those days?
Yes.
And did she continue to tell you that she loved her sister very much?
Repeatedly.
What was her demeanor like as she was telling you that information?
Somber. I mean, she's telling me stuff that her sister and brother-in-law had done. She was not happy about having to do it, but she said that she was trying to get her life right and she was trying to do the right thing.
And at some points was she crying so hard that you couldn't understand what she was saying?
Yeah, we would just have to sit there and let her, I mean, I would almost describe it like blubbering. Like she's just crying to the point you can't understand the words that are coming out of her mouth, so you just have to sit there and let her have whatever time she needed.
Okay. And eventually did she tell you that a machete had been left in her yard and that she had picked it up and with a towel and put it in this barn?
Yes.
And did she go on to tell you that she knew that Brant Hayes and her son had wiped down the coolers and those were some of the towels that she put in that barn?
Correct. Grant and Dalton.
And at some point, did she, before she told you what happened on that Tuesday, did she ask that you would take care of her sister when you went to pick her up?
Yes.
And after she told you that, did she also tell you that she didn't want to sit in court facing her sister?
Yes.
And after she told you that, is that when she proceeded to tell you that Amanda had told Karen that she had hurt Laura?
Yes.
And did Karen tell you that Amanda had told Karen that she had hurt Laura and hurt her bad?
Yes.
Now at that point, in that first interview on that Sunday morning, did Karen tell you that she knew that Laura was dead?
No.
But did Karen tell you that Amanda had told her that Laura had taken her kid, that Laura had said to Amanda that Amanda had taken her children and now Laura was going to take her baby from her?
Correct.
And to be clear, that's Amanda saying what Laura said to Karen,
Yes.
and then Karen's telling this to you.
She's recounting to me what her sister told her.
And at some point, did you attempt to clarify what Amanda was saying because of her emotional state?
Tried to clarify repeatedly throughout the process. This isn't one interview. We're talking about multiple interviews that are going on over a period of days. The initial one at the house, there was about a 15 to 20 minute interview. Then Detective Gill left the room. I continued the interview for another 15 to 20 minutes. And then we moved to another location. So there's clarifying questions going on repeatedly with me and her over the next several days.
And when you were attempting to clarify some of Karen's statements, at one point she stopped you and interrupted you and said that she knew that something was wrong because Amanda told her that something was serious. Is that correct?
Do you know what page you're referring to on mine?
Page 4 of your supplement.
Okay, what paragraph are you in?
And looking at for the record's sake, do you have a copy of your supplement up there?
I do.
And is that how you, do you type that up after your investigation to make sure that you remember what folks told you?
Correct.
And is that helping you testify here today?
Yes, sir.
At the fourth paragraph, did you record that you began to clarify Karen's
Yeah.
statement when Karen interrupted you?
Correct.
And what happened at that point?
Karen said that she knew that something was wrong because Amanda told her that there was something serious, that she had done something serious. Amanda told Karen that she didn't, Amanda told Karen she didn't know what to do. And Karen, her sister, told her that she needed to do the right thing. And then she asked if she needed an attorney.
Okay, Karen asked Amanda if she needed an attorney, and what did Amanda say to Karen?
No.
Then did Karen go on that she was trying to do the right thing?
Karen didn't. Correct.
At some point, did Detective Gill come back into the living room as part of this interview?
Yeah, and Detective Gill's still he's still in the living room with me at this point.
Okay, so Detective Gill hasn't left.
Correct.
And after hearing this information and what Karen was saying about how Amanda had told her there was something serious, did Detective Gill stop Karen and ask her, "Is Laura here somewhere?"
Yeah, he asked her, do you think Laura is, I quoted it as, is Laura here somewhere?
And what did Karen respond?
She said she didn't know, that she was scared that Laura was there somewhere. And then she said again, but I don't know. Detective Gill asked her, where would she be? Where would Laura be? Karen said, quote, they took my son's boat to the creek. Detective Gill asked which creek, and Karen said, quote, across the street. She said that her sons were gone and her daughter was there when they took the boat to the creek. She said that they took the boat out for about 2 hours, and that's when Detective Gill walked out.
And do you know why Detective Gill walked out at that point?
Because we were going to need some more help from Fort Bend County.
Did you continue to stay in this living room and talk to Karen?
I did.
And at that point, is that when Karen told you that she had hurt Laura and hurt her bad?
Yes.
And did you ask Karen what her response was to that?
What Karen's response was?
Yeah, on the bottom of page 6 of your supplement, did you note that you asked Karen what Karen responded to Amanda saying, I hurt her bad?
Yes.
And is that when the conversation about the attorney occurred between Karen and Amanda?
Yes.
And then did that interview continue for a number of minutes, and did you record it?
Yes.
And those, later that day, did Karen come to the police station with you and with the Fort Bend County Sheriff's deputies?
Karen went with Dalton and Shelton. I let them drive themselves there. They weren't suspects.
And did you end up sitting down with Karen for another interview at that point?
Yes.
And then some days later, did Karen contact you and tell you that she had more information to give?
She just basically said, I want to talk to you again. I need you to meet me at Dick Tate's office, which was her attorney.
Okay. And did you go to that office?
I did.
And those 3 interviews over the course of those days, how would you characterize those 3 interviews and Karen's information that she provided over the course of those 3 interviews?
She became progressively more clear. She became more detailed. She became more consistent. So if I asked her initially in the beginning interview a question and then came back to that question, I didn't always get the exact same answer. By the time we got to the attorney's office and we're on my 3rd interview with her, she was consistent with what she was telling me. And if I came back to something, in other words, I would when I'm interviewing somebody, I'll talk to them, I'll let them talk, and then I'll bring them back to a subject that they're not thinking about because I want to see if they're giving me the same thing. And she was consistent and progressively got that way throughout the interaction. And we're talking probably 6 to 7 hours of interviews with her over the 3 separate incidents. That's an approximation.
And over the course of those interviews, for instance, the information about Karen walking with Amanda and I guess Grant to the septic tank in the backyard, when did that information come out? Did that come out in the third interview?
Yes.
And that's something that didn't come out in the first.
And that's why she wanted to meet with me.
When you were talking to her in these interviews, was her, I guess in this first interview, was her demeanor, again, with the crying and the blubbering?
Yeah, the first one, she's crying. She's obviously upset. When we got to the sheriff's department later on that day and I interviewed her, she'd gotten calmed down. She's still upset. When we get to the third interview, which was about, I believe, 2 days later, she looked wore out. She was visibly tired, told me that she couldn't sleep, told me she was having nightmares, told me she had to get it off her chest, had to tell me the truth. I mean, she looked like it had weighed on her in between the interview at the police department and the interview in the attorney's office.
On that Sunday afternoon, do you recall how long you talked to Karen that afternoon
At the house,
at the house?
it's a 35 to 40 minute interview at the house, I believe.
As you're completing that interview, are more law enforcement folks arriving?
Yes,
And at some point, do you step out to talk to Detective Gill and pass on the information that you had acquired?
yes,
And did all the information you acquired lead you to want to search that creek across the street?
yes,
When you finished talking with Karen, did you walk around the property with her?
yes.
And what was the purpose of that?
She had told me about a machete, some rags, some coolers, and then while walking, she actually brings up a suitcase and some other items that were left at the residence, and so we just basically walked the property, and she identified different spots.
And first, did she point out the suitcase on that burn pile?
She actually pointed out a spot in the dirt and a hog pen before that.
And what was that hog pen spot? What did that look like?
It looked like some liquid had been poured on it. It was about a foot in diameter. Karen told me that wasn't there before they got here. They asked me to bring the trailer over and pull it near that location. I don't know where that spot came from. And then we went from the spot to the back of the property. At that time, Texas was on a burn ban. So this property is about 2 acres, 2.5 acres. And there are large piles of trash that are kept inside fencing. So they almost like a chicken fence, and they build a big circle and they put their trash in it. And then whenever the burn ban went up, they were going to burn it. And so she had taken a suitcase that Grant and Amanda had left because they didn't have room in the Durango, and tossed it on the burn pile.
And this jury's seen some pictures of that property, but that afternoon after you talked with Karen inside the house, you walk to these different parts of the property and she points out, here's the suitcase, and did she take you in the barn as well?
Yes,
And when you go in the barn, did she point out where the towels were?
yes,
And did she point to the area against the wall where the machete was hidden behind some boards?
yes.
After you complete that walkthrough with Karen, what do you do next?
Asked her to go back with me to the sheriff's department. She wanted to change her clothes, and then we did.
And as you're walking around the property with her, do you also notice 2 coolers?
Yes,
And are those located in her backyard and on her side porch?
yes,
After that, is that the time when she goes in and changes to come to the sheriff's office?
correct. And she talked to her brother-in-law briefly.
And when she goes to the sheriff's office to speak, you mentioned her brother-in-law. Do you know what line of work he was in?
Sheriff's deputy.
When she goes to the sheriff's office, what does the scene near her property look like at that point? Are there more law enforcement folks there?
Yeah, Fort Bend County Sheriff's Department had started arriving. They called some detectives in. The dive team had not arrived whenever I left, but they had contacted them. I'd say there was probably 8 to 10 law enforcement officers that had arrived.
And we say dive team, initially the Richmond County Fire Department dive team had arrived,
Correct.
and then the days later the Houston
Houston.
Police dive team had arrived.
Correct.
Okay. So when you leave the scene, you go back to talk to Karen at the sheriff's office?
Correct.
At that point, did you continue talking with her about the information that she provided and get more detail on the second interview?
Yes, sir.
After you complete that interview with Karen, and based on the information that you acquired, was this on Sunday night at this point?
Are you the first interview?
No, after you finished the second interview
Second.
with the sheriff's office, do you recall what time that was? Sergeant, I don't want to take up too much time, but after that time period where you spoke with her at that at the sheriff's office, did you return back to the scene?
Yes.
And when you got back to the scene, had a boat been put in that creek?
Yes.
Okay, and at that point, had anything been discovered?
It had been discovered while I was doing the interviews.
And did you become aware that some of Laura Ackerson's body parts had been recovered?
Yes.
The rest of that Sunday, what did you do as part of your investigation?
To answer your earlier question, it was 9 o'clock at night when I got back. And that was it. We made sure that the crime scene tape had been erected. We ensured that a Fort Bend County deputy was going to stand by at the property to make sure that the scene couldn't get contaminated. And then Detective Gill and I went back to the hotel and went to bed.
And did your investigation continue that next day?
Yes.
Why don't we stop for that? We'll start that in the morning. Also, you can stand down. Thank you. You can stand down. Thank you. Folks, obviously I haven't heard it all. Keep an open mind. Don't formally express any opinion about the guilt or innocence of the defendant or any matter of controversy. As I indicated to you, I think yesterday, I have a medical procedure that I have to undergo tomorrow morning fairly early. I should be finished by 10:30. Unfortunately, it's in Durham at Duke, and so I won't be back until probably about 11:30. And so let me ask y'all to come at 11:30 and assemble in the Jimmy Pool room downstairs, and hopefully I'll be back by then and we can pick it up at that time. This delay would concern me, except for the fact that honestly I believe that we're two or three days ahead of time, if not a week ahead of time or so in this case. We're moving along really quickly, and so I don't believe this will interfere with our time schedule at all. I think we're in real good shape on the time schedule, frankly. I'm consistently optimistic about the fact that we'll finish a lot earlier than the lawyers predicted. But you never know, so but anyway, keep an open mind, and we'll see everybody at 11:30 in the morning. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. All right, folks, anything else?
No, it's not for the same.
Just one minor thing, Your
Okay.
This morning when I was questioning Sergeant Hall, I had him identify a package of materials that had previously been marked by the state, but as it turns out, their identification stickers pertained only to the two receipts that were on the outside side of the package.
Yeah.
And I didn't remark the entire package. I would like to do that.
Okay.
It's the two receipts are marked, it says Exhibit 557 and 556. The package of materials is actually marked as State's Exhibit 558, but it hasn't been entered. But it has been marked as State's Exhibit.
Okay, so the record will reflect, what's the number on the packet itself? 558 has not yet been offered by the state, and so the record will show what it is that the witness was looking through. If you want to mark that with a defense exhibit, you'll know what that is, and you'll tell me how you marked it.
I marked it exhibit 55.
Okay, so that'll be Defense Exhibit 55. All right. Very well. We'll see everybody at 11:30 in the morning. Thank you.